Previously on Transformers.
The child's key contains the power I need to make my triumphant return.
Track the energy signal and find that key. Meanwhile, I will locate the source of the transmission. Megatron, alive?
The fate of the Earth and Cybertron hang in the balance, and all I've got to command are a bunch of undisciplined, insubordinate malfunctions!
So why don't you just hand over the key and I'll be on my way.
Yeah, well, you're a little too late. They didn't trust me with it anymore, so they took it away.
Ratchet, take the key and head for the ship. We need to protect the Allspark, just in case the Decepticons try to make a move.
The key, Autobot!
You'll have to pry it from my cold offline servo.
Well, it's not exactly offline, but it's certainly cold.
Trouble at Sumdac Tower. It begins with a star and ends with a scream.
This has been fun, Autobot. Your time is up.
What have I done?
On your knees, you scum, and bow before the great and glorious Megatron, supreme of all Decepticons.
No, it can't be.
All right.
Lion face, lemon face, ooh, lion face, lemon face, ooh. We're back.
Autobots,
Decepticons, transform and rise up.
Mike! So many Mike! So many Mike! So many Mike! So many Mike!
Hey, welcome back for another thrilling episode of Two Mikes, Two Furious Animated Transformers, where you are Mike, and I am Mike, and he is Mike, and we are in the midst of Megatron Rising. So let's just get right to it. Oh, by the way, my name is Mike Seibert, and with me is Michael Andrews.
Yeah, hello.
Spark's
Hi,
little brother.
Yeah.
We're here.
No intro, no vamping here.
Let's go.
Well, I think it's in the spirit of this episode, right? Because this episode starts with "There is no waiting here." This is literally picking up where we left off. It is right into the swinging. I did want to note that this episode is written by Marty Eisenberg proper, where the last one was written by Marcia Griffin. So I like this little end cap here. We have a proper Marty Eisenberg written episode. So I'm excited to dive right in.
You read my mind because I wanted to call that out as well. So this is Transformers Animated Season 1, Episode 16. It's our Episode 16 as well. And I also wanted to note that this episode aired on April 5th of 2008. So it was 1 week after part 1, just like this is 1 week after our part 1. Ooh. So it's all just lots of synergy. But anyway, enough of that. Let's go. So we pick up immediately where part 1 leaves off, and Megatron casually descends to the ground, falling in reverse, floating in reverse. What is it like where he descends down so slowly, but he's floating? It's a very casual, just ooh.
Yeah. Something about it like an ember falling to earth from a firework or something. This is very beautiful. He drops into the street, and why I wanted to bring up, importantly, the Marty Eisenberg thing is that even though Marty Eisenberg is known for his great intros and great banter and great dialogue, we are just right into fighting. Both sides know that there's no time to be fucking around here. So Bulkhead just goes to make his first move, and I love the moment. He just sizes him up and he's like, "We're doing this," and goes in for the first blow, and he's just batted away like a rag doll, right? Like if you can have all the back and forth dialogue in the world, but nothing shows what they're up against with Bulkhead, the biggest member of the team, just getting knocked into a building.
Yeah, and just so casually and calmly. That was the thing I was trying to describe with like this ember fall. Like you just there's no hurry in Megatron at this point. He's so confident in his return to power, that he's not specifically in a rush. It's like he doesn't come down with like a loud crash, or there's no like 3-point landing or anything. He's just like, I'm here, and I'm here to take all comers. Oh, the big guy, whatever.
Yeah, what else you got?
The ninja dude, whatever. But one of the things that I saw is like, you know, as Megatron makes his descent, the trio of Optimus, Prowl, and Bulkhead, it's a combination of fear and disbelief. Like, you know, how can this be? That kind of thing. But then the thing that I didn't know was going to be part of this character model is he's got these heckin' swords. And like,
yeah,
Megatron, not traditionally a sword guy.
Right.
And I know we're getting like right into the action, but I want to talk about this character design a little bit, because like, I'm sure I'll talk about it in other things too, but like the perspective of the swords, it's like, that's, you know, I mean, obviously it goes with his alt mode being like this weird helicopter type of thing. But like, usually when Megatron has a sword, it's from like a giant, more like broadsword perspective, or maybe like a lightsaber type of thing or something like that. But very rarely does he have like these, you know, I don't even know how to describe what, I'm not a sword guy. So it's like, they're not quite katanas, but close to it, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I don't
there's
know,
a lightness and a litheness and a streamlinedness to them. But yeah, that's not the big, you know, berserker sword that you're used to, you know.
Yeah. But either way, it's like he uses these to, you know, Prowl gets on the attack, and again, Michael Andrews' favorite, the shurikens.
Yeah.
But again, it's just nothing. Ting 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 ting. Just
right.
You know, he does like this helicopter spin move, and you know, deflects them very easily.
Yeah, Prowl's laid up fast, and then we got a couple kids, local teens in danger here in the city, and I was like, Optimus takes a page from Bumblebee's playbook, and I also wrote down that this is where Seibert creams in his shorts, eloquently as I could put it, because we have the rocket axe paired with the Heelys move of Bumblebee, and we're getting it called out, which I think is awesome, that it is his signature move.
Yeah, he literally says, he's like, well, so he sees the kids and he's like, oh man, I got to get there in time. Light bulb.
Time to borrow a move from the Bumblebee playbook.
And it was one of those things like, you know, there's a GIF going around on Twitter. It's like, you know, Joe Rogan and some like other MMA commentator guys where it's like, oh, you know, like they're all like thrown aback and like holding each other back and stuff like that. So it's like, I was like that. And the thing that I experienced a couple times throughout this viewing is where it's layered. So I was already bouncing. I'm like, holy shit, wheels on heels. He's actually doing it. And then, because I have not seen this episode before, turns on the rocket on the axe, and I'm like, holy shit. And again, like, I'm in a dark room by myself, and I'm like, holy shit, he did the thing. And it's like, I mean, I was like, I could feel myself like bouncing in my chair. I was so excited. It was a really cool moment for me. And I love this combination of the wheels and the axe, and he scoops up these children. I love as much as I love combat, I love rescue even more. Like, you know, he's a fireman, you know, he's a first responder. So it's like, you know, using this combination of superpowers and the fact that, you know, he's Optimus fucking Prime, you know, to save these kids, fucking awesome. That's
right. And I think it's important to show that he learned his lesson from what we saw in part 1, where he was sort of like, you know, who cares about life? And, you know, this is important. And Megatron's here. Like, it's nice to see him have this moment of clarity of like, oh, that's right. We're here to protect the people of the planet. That's what this was all about.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you said, he's kind of learned a lesson and he's a little wiser, but he's still got a chip on his shoulders a little bit. He hasn't quite come all the way back around because, you know, these little snot-nosed brats are kind of, you know, not exactly sure what to do. And Optimus is like,
it's not going to get any safer around here. Go!
And then they do, but like you know, he kind of snaps at these little kids right after rescuing them from sure death.
Right. He's still scared. He's still the insecure leader a little bit too. It's a nice nuance to the character.
Agreed.
Yeah. So this is just a great moment. We get a great throwback where Megatron is towering over Prowl, and I just love that he reminds him that, like, he remembers, like, all that time, 50 stellar cycles later, he remembers that, Prowl is the one that took his hand, and he's still pissed about it. So he's enjoying this, to your earlier point, he's enjoying this a little bit, getting this revenge. But it doesn't last long because Prime swoops in. He talks some real good smack. I'll give him that. But Megs doesn't need him anymore to find the Allspark. Optimus has this moment where he's just like, I'm never going to tell you where it is or show you the key, blah, blah, blah. And he's like,
oh, I don't need you for that, Autobot. The child's key will lead me straight to it.
No! I don't need it. Got it right here. Look at my Green Lantern Ring of Power here.
I wrote that down in my notes. I wrote down all caps Green Lantern decoder ring.
Yeah, absolutely. It just
because he does. So cool.
Yeah, it's so.
Oh
sweet.
my gosh. So meanwhile, while this is happening, Starscream and Bumblebee are still hanging out on Sumdac Tower. And did you catch this? Friggin' Starscream is so unconcerned with Bumblebee. He's he's like a cat with a mouse. The scale on this is out of control. Like, Starscream is huge and imposing, and Bumblebee has never been shown to be more tiny. But like he's like kicking his legs and all that other stuff. But at one point, Starscream just straight up juggles him and just like throws him from hand to hand. Like, he just has like no care in the world for this little stinker boy.
Yeah, it's something. Well, it's kind of in that same vein. Yeah, you also have Blitzwing playing good cop a little bit with Sumdac, and there's sort of that, like, he could squash him like a bug at that point, but he's like, why don't you stick around for a second? You're gonna like this. And I think it probably plays to the face that Blitzwing had on at that moment, that Sumdac lived through that scene.
But I also like in the sequence where, like, Hothead Blitzwing is like,
Autobot scum! I will help Megatron crush the enemy!
But Lugnut doesn't allow it. It's just like, stay away. That's Megatron's fight. It's a reverse hot rod. Blitzwing did a reverse hot rod to where it's like, I need to go help Megatron. Stay away. That's Megatron's fight. So I really like that. And as you said, as the duo kind of argue, Sumdac tries to get away. Blitzwing intercepts him, and he's really icy and cool about, you might want to stick around for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And this whole scene plays out to the coolest thing, where Megatron calls his troops to the scene, makes this big speech about how he's finally going to get revenge for the 50 stellar cycles he remained in stasis, and worse, the years he spent as a severed head in Sumdac's office. This is a great moment. He trains his fusion cannon on Prime, just as theatrically as we've known Megatron can be, only to just swing in with the other hand and sock Starscream right with his other fist, using his key like a Cybertronian brass knuckle or something, right? Just swings in and guts him. Oh, it's great.
Talk about cyber key power. My gosh.
Yeah.
But leading up to that, Megatron, as you said, has this thing about like, to me, my X-Men, I mean, loyal Decepticons. and prior to that, Starscream is kind of having this moment of uncertainty of like, as he's throwing Bumblebee from hand to hand, he's like,
so do I help the Autobot take him down? Or serve Megatron until a better opportunity presents itself?
Let's see how this plays out. We see how it plays out, and Starscream just casually tosses B away, and he's like, well, it looks like that decision got made for me. I guess I'm rolling with the cons. And so Blitzwing and Lugnut show up, and Starscream does this move where he lands on top of Lugnut's head basically like Mario stomps, like Goomba stomps him, and he's like, "Oh, hey,
I am ready to serve as your ever faithful second in command.
just like the old days." And it's so good. I mean, again, you already talked about the scene, but I love the dripping theatrics from Corey Burton's delivery when he's like,
Ah, Starscream. How fitting to have you by my side.
I love it too, because he's like, I finally take revenge on the one responsible for my condition. And like you say, he's about to smoke Optimus.
Yeah. This rang so much of the scene in Last Jedi that I really love when Kylo Ren seemingly turns on Snoke, and there's that sort of play of like, he sees his true enemy and his blade rings true and all these theatrics, and it's all to just crush Starscream instead of Optimus.
It's so good. And then at the end of it, like, Starscream's dead ? Because like he's looking pretty limp ragdoll there. He just
super dead.
Super dead, like just slumps to the floor. And I was just like, it was one of those things where I'm like, that guy dead? Oh shit, I think that guy dead.
Yeah, what a bold move.
But I would also say this ain't the first time Starscream has been presumed dead, so I would not presume that it's the last. So
I will zip my lips, but yeah.
Don't make me blow the secret spoiler siren. No secret spoiler siren here, but but
yeah.
But you get a reprise of or a recontextualization of the will anyone else attempt to fill his shoes type of thing. Because Megatron's like, hey man,
does anyone else have a problem with my leadership?
And it's, while it's a cool moment, it's like you could tell the moment was deliberate, but it also kind of doesn't make sense because Lugnut is absolutely loyal, and even though he's a loose cannon, both figuratively and literally, Blitzwing is loyal to Megatron and the Decepticon cause. So, I mean, it's a great gag where they're both shaking their heads. It's like, yeah, no, never, or anything like that. But
I think he also knows that they did follow Starscream for a hot minute, so I think that's a little bit like he's never gotten over that a little bit, just a little pissy about it.
That's an excellent point. And I don't know if I'm going to relitigate this during my G1 score, but like this whole sequence is interesting because it is kind of like a riff, of course, on Starscream's coronation and the whole Transformers the movie thing, because it's not the first time that the leader has returned in a new body and kills Starscream for his duplicity. But it's interesting to see Megatron actually punishing Starscream for once. That doesn't actually happen all that often because let's not forget, it is Galvatron who does the killing blow in the Transformers the movie. Like the whole thing, and why that is such a big payoff, and why I occasionally get into some disagreements with my friends when we talk about the dichotomy between Megatron and Galvatron. It's like, oh yeah, he's the same guy, just straight across. And I'm like, nah. Yes, Megatron is in there, but Galvatron is a different affect of that same personality, because Galvatron did the one thing that Megatron never would or could or whatever, and finally make Starscream pay. None of that matters here because this is just straight up Megatron, but it was interesting to actually see that play out, as opposed to like, what is the dynamic between this Megatron and this Starscream? Obviously there's, scheming and kind of like a reluctant allowance, but for Megatron to be just like, yeah, eat some key. I'm done. I am done with your shit is kind of a bold thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And right after this awesome scene plays out, we get this like glorious transformation of Megatron with this beautiful like Decepticon purple Speedlines background.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that he's I wrote down weird, cool, futuristic helicopter. I love it.
Yeah, it's like, I mentioned the character design earlier, but yeah, I guess let's talk about these both in tandem. You mentioned the vehicle mode. So it is like a bizarre helicopter. And, several weeks ago, I had talked about my adventures at CybFest Northwest, our convention here in Seattle. And I saw one of those weird looking helicopter Megatrons. Now, I've seen that before. It's not like it was like a big reveal for me. Well, it was a big reveal for me, but I knew what it was, is what I'm trying to say quickly. But anyway, I saw one of those toys and I'm like, not yet. I'm not ready for this. I haven't met him yet. But like now I'm like, oh, I kind of regret leaving that on the table, because it's a killer design. And at a time like, I obviously I'm a, G1er in by generational burden or whatever, but like, I'm not one of these guys that laments that Megatron isn't a gun. Like tank mode Megatron always rang true with me. Cybertronian jet Megatron, fine. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Like when he's like an occasional triple changer, that's fine. I really don't care. So it is interesting that I saw Earthspark before I saw animated. So I'm accustomed to seeing a vertical takeoff and landing Osprey type helicopter thing. So, I mean, it's canon a couple different ways, and I like it. It's sleek. I think having the fusion cannon at the nose is a little awkward, but shrug, it's fine. It's like, it doesn't bother me, but I like the sleekness. But I also want to talk about just the character model design of this Megatron, because he's a pretty killer evergreen Megatron. You get the colors, you get a lot more red than usual. So it's classic. Yeah. It's classic gunmetal gray and silver, with that pop of red and the big heckin' cannon.
It's got the little notches right where you want them.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like
there.
his legs, like his boots look like his, it very much evokes G1 without being G1, in terms of like the character design, even down to like the helmet. I really like this take on Megatron. I think it's a wicked design. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say, I never really realized it until you said it just now, but like, yeah, his lower legs sort of have that like gun handle. Gun handle, is there a better word for it?
No.
I don't know pieces of guns. I'm sorry. I'll admit that now in front of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does evoke that. That's really cool. I like it. I like it a lot. I had a toy of, I think I had the Cybertronian Megatron for a hot minute. And at that time in my life, I just wasn't a Decepticon guy. So I think I ended up selling it pretty quickly after I got it. But one day I hope to get, that Cybertronian Megatron and Cybertronian Optimus from this series, that Battle Damage 2-pack. I'm going to put that on my grail list. Yeah. But all that to say, I mean, I really like this version of it and how it's a little bit a twist on what we've seen, that Cybertronian mode that we've seen so far, but still evoking Transformers animated and evoking G1 Megatron. So yeah, it is a really nice play here.
It's a cool design. And, we spent a lot of time talking about the transformation sequence, but as if Optimus Prime's wheels on heels, combined with the thruster axe, wasn't an iconic moment enough for me, this knocks it off, because one of the delights for me, being a first time Transformers animated watcher, like, and we've talked about this both on and off mic about like, what is my temperature now that I've been immersed in this Transformers animated world? Like, how surprised am I? Or like, what new stuff is still there for me? And I got a terrific surprise that I didn't even know I was asking for, something I didn't even know was a thing. When Megatron calls down the Decepticons and he gives his command, finally, after all of these years, we get and I talked about this a lot with one of my favorite Optimus Prime phrases is transform and roll out. We play it before every episode.
Yeah.
You heard something different at the beginning of this episode, because ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all of my friends, all of my folks, we now have the Decepticon equivalent, and I cannot think of anything more appropriate than Decepticons transform and rise up. Fucking love it. And I yelled. I was like, holy shit. Because like I didn't know how to react to it, because it was like it came suddenly. And again, it's animation. It moves fast. It doesn't linger, because like, even Corey Burton just kind of throws it over her shoulder. He's like,
Decepticons, transform and rise up.
And then you get immediately into the speed lines. I'm like, wait, go back to that. Go back to that thing that you
Right.
just said. That thing that I have never heard before anywhere else in the lore. And it was just like, I mean, my mind was blown. And
Yeah.
part of it, like once I started thinking about it, like after like the initial burst of euphoria kind of waned a little bit, I think it resonated so hard with me because it means so many different things. So you take it kind of as the flip side of transform and roll out, right? The Autobots are ground pounders. They're vehicles. They're literally rolling out. What do Decepticons do? They fly. They fly now. They fly now.
Yeah.
And so rise up is the perfect opposite to roll out, but also depending upon which version of canon you want to believe about Megatron's origin, about the origin of the Decepticons. Was he a gladiator? Was he a miner? Was he, part of the underclass? Was he part of the dejected that caused an uprise? So rise up could mean several different things. And it's funny because this kind of predicts lore that hasn't really happened yet. So it's like, I mean, because they really get into that into the comics. But in 2008, I think the closest we had to that was, I don't know what, like in a Transformers UK annual from 1986 that says that Megatron was a gladiator. And that's what, I mean, like the original Decepticon story was kind of like a Spartacus type of situation. Megatron was kind of more of a Spartacus-like figure that led this gladiator uprising type of thing. And then it basically kind of got recontextualized as, classism and, the Megatron feeling dejected and found like-minded bots.
Right.
But anyway, that's Decepticons transform and rise up. I was floored and my mind was blown. It's
so awesome. Yeah,
so cool.
I wonder if it'd be interesting if it was just them trying to match the sort of cadence and style of roll out, but what they landed on is just, I don't think Marty Eisner even realized like how, maybe he did. He's a great writer, but how much that would spell out for this character and the Decepticons for generations to come.
Absolutely. But as awesome as this sequence is, rallying for the Decepticons, where is Black Arachnia? What is Black Arachnia's deal? Does she roll with the Decepticons or what? And because like the only time we've seen her actively with the Decepticons in the entirety of this season, the entirety of this show, is when they're on the bridge 50 something years ago. It's very odd. I mean, she, and even to the point where in Along Came a Spider, she gets in Prime's face because like Prime is like, well, yeah, you're with them now, gestures to her Decepticon badge. And she's like, well, I at least know where I stand with them. I don't know where she stands with them because nobody else is like, well, where's Black Arachnia? Nobody seems to be concerned. And I find that dynamic to be very confusing and kind of frustrating. I'm hoping as, maybe like hopes and dreams for season 2, maybe this gets revisited or fleshed out or something. But right now I don't know if it's a plot hole specifically, but it's gappy.
Yeah. I guess if right now at this moment, what I kind of like about it is that she's purposely living in both worlds. She's telling the Autobots, well, at least I know where I stand with the Decepticons. And then when she's with the Decepticons, she's like, well, I'm not really a part of you guys, like it's just kind of waffling for that sake. She's really kind of more of an independent party. She's almost, like a mercenary at this point.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Kind of living in that in between worlds. But it doesn't benefit her to say to the Decepticons, "Hey, I'm 100% with you guys," and it doesn't behoove her to tell the Autobots that she is in league with them, or not in league with them. So
right.
Keeps all parties guessing, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make.
I gotcha.
I think that's what she's in for.
Well, she's a survivor, and and she is in it for herself, so that tracks. And it's at a time where you're selling toys, you kind of gotta fill out the bad guy side. So
absolutely.
It makes sense.
Yeah. I do want to touch on this moment that after the Decepticons, after the beautiful transformation sequence and the escape, the downtrodden Autobots have to listen in horror as Sumdac admits, he found Megatron's head, and Sumdac has to revisit this whole thing, and they actually show the flashback from the original episode. I thought that was a nice little touch. And what I find most interesting about it is the Autobots don't have sympathy for this mistake. Like, this would be a very easy kids TV moment of like, it's okay, you tried your best. They're just like, you didn't fucking get it, dude. Like, you didn't think this was bad from the beginning. They're mad. They come away with that. There's no love between them. They're still pissed.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because this is one of Marty Eisenberg's signature tropes is repeating jokes. And so you get this sequence a couple different times where poor Isaac Sumdac, it's all my fault. And Optimus is trying to, reassure, oh, well, hey man, you didn't have anything to do with this. He's like, oh,
But I did. I rebuilt Megatron.
And flashback. And we get a replay of that later. So it's kind of funny how the joke repeats.
Right. So meanwhile, in the depths of Lake Eerie, Ratchet activates Teletran 1 for security purposes. Thought that was interesting. It discovers Sari riding back on Black Arachnia, as we kind of alluded to earlier, riding around on this frozen lake, riding her like a horse a little bit. They banter back and forth, but Black Arachnia isn't taking Sari's shit anymore. And coincidentally, Sari isn't taking hers either. She's not afraid of the quote-unquote bug lady anymore. So now Black Arachnia tries to like burst into her mode and scare Sari, but Sari's like over it. She's like, I've seen this trick now. Not impressed. And from that moment, though, you get this really cool moment of Black Arachnia realizing that Sari's been leading her around in circles all this time. And Sari has some great moments in this episode. Yeah. Really some reverse comeuppance where she gets to really kind of show off her skill and her smarts. I'm glad they got that in there because frankly she's had some moments that make her look not so great throughout this entire first season, and I feel like this episode really played her as heroic the whole time.
And it is funny though because like I like seeing Black Arachnia so mad and so undone by this child, how she's just like outmaneuvered by an actual child, and it's like,
word of advice, don't mouth off to a giant poisonous spider.
Sari is great here because like she's not intimidated by the giant poisonous robot spider or the giant robot spider lady, where like Black Arachnia is like, well, this should intimidate you. And then meanwhile, I'm like, them sexy heels though, step on me, Spider Mommy. Shout out to our previous episode because they made a point of emphasis of that at least 2 other times where it's like she's leaning in with the femme fatale heel there. But before things get really bad, before there is a step on me, Spider Mommy moment, Ratchet decides to come to the rescue by resurrecting the ship, breaking up through the ice. And I have questions, and I don't know. So let's just talk about blow by blow, I guess. So Ratchet breaks through the ice. First of all, I find it odd and a little suspect that without the aid of the key, that Ratchet is somehow able to repair the ship, and he's still missing an arm. Like, he hasn't done anything to repair his own arm because, again, he doesn't have access to the key or the Allspark or anything like that. So we can litigate that further as we go. Again, maybe it's a passage of time type of thing, like in terms of like when the last time we encountered the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald down at the bottom of Lake Eerie if you will. So obviously time has passed between Sound and Fury and Megatron Rising, but it seemed like at the time that the ship is pretty busted up. Again, this episode is littered with, don't you remember last time? That kind of thing. Because this was the plan before I'm jumping ahead, but to lead the Decepticons off planet. But it's like, but the ship is broke. So I don't know if the implication is like over this amount of time, they've been being tireless mechanical bots and working on the ship and fixing it. And maybe it's all fixed now, but that, I mean, I'm all for a good rescue where, Ratchet breaks through the ice here, but it just underscores questions that are harder to ask when you're doing a larger conversation like this, as opposed to in a 24-minute cartoon that moves at a rapid pace. Because this episode goes so fast, you don't even realize that that's a thing until you go back and start writing notes about it.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't that jarring for me because we did get that episode where they've been down there a couple times now. Clearly, Prime made a point to be like, Ratchet, we got to get this thing working. So I can conceivably see where we're behind the scenes. What we haven't seen is Ratchet putting some time into getting this fixed up. And now either Prime ordered it or Ratchet's like, okay, well, I got to make up for not having a hand by getting this ship. I can't fuck around anymore, right? The deadline's here. I got to turn in my work. Yeah. So he's down there working it. But I also just, like you were saying, I just love a good explosive rescue like that, right? Like the iconic scene of their ship bursting through the ice. There was something sort of Star Trek, the movie about, or like the film series where you're not just a ship floating in space, but you're like viscerally using the Enterprise to rescue someone. Yeah.
Love it.
It had that kind of vibe to it, and I really liked it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And so Sari is in trouble here, and she gets out of this pickle by checks notes, biting Black Arachnia's hand. And I have more questions because it's like, it could be, you could argue that, well, we don't know what aspect of Black Arachnia is truly organic or not. She keeps referring to it as my organic half, but I think maybe that's just a pejorative for, just because, who knows how much of her biomechanical, because
did Sari bank on she's like, maybe the organic half is the half holding me and bites down.
Yeah. But you hear a distinctive metallic clang. So it's like, unless Sari has adamantium teeth or something else, that, again, it's a cartoon, and I don't mean to be hand wavy and brush it off, because I know we really try to avoid that here because it is a fun visual gag. And
I will say, I don't think this is a gaffe, or I think this has a purpose here. And it's one of those things I can't talk about yet. But I think this is a very, very deliberate scene, and not just like we need a way to get her out of Black Arachnia's hand.
Oh, okay.
I think there's more to it, but I don't want to get too far into that.
Interesting. Okay. So, but I do like the rapid pace and quickness of this action, because it all happens very quickly. Again, everything in this episode happens very quickly, if not our conversation about it. But Sari bites down on Black Arachnia, and immediately she's like, youch, flicks her away, and in one smooth motion, without even the equivalent of a one take, one shot type of thing, Ratchet just reaches out, grabs Sari, rescues her, pulls her back in, and off they go. Just as if it was nothing, just the casualness, because it's like yeet, and Sari's like, ee! It's like grab.
Right, he just rolled down the automatic window quick, snatched her, bring her back.
Yeah,
in.
very casual. Didn't even break a sweat.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't even bend a fender.
I do think there is a missed opportunity, for a stinger to this episode where Black Arachnia getting bit by a radioactive human kind of turns her back into a human, but she's closer to what she used to be, but she's human, and she's like, no.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so she's just Alita 1, like with the ponytail and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, but like human version.
Human former TFA Alita 1?
Yeah, there's something there.
With the blonde hair and all like the yellow and stuff. That's something.
Yeah,
that's something.
Yeah, that could be a thing. Or it's that old thing of like Beast Wars Transformers. Like, can they take the forms of humans? Like, can we have like a Transformer whose beast mode is a human person?
Mm-hmm.
That could be something.
Yeah.
So I guess along with this moment in the cockpit of the shuttle or bridge, I guess, I don't know how it works, but Sari gets another one of her great moments where she gets to razz Ratchet about losing her key. This is another like comeuppance thing that I just appreciate them getting in there.
Well, and it's interesting because of the folks that have tenuous relationships, Ratchet and Sari isn't necessarily one of them. Like there isn't necessarily anything said about it, but they're kind of sort of still homies despite what he did. It's more about like, yeah, because like the dialogue even starts with like, oh man, we're all fucked up, and she's like, shrug.
No problem. We'll just fix him up.
It's not like you lost the key or anything, and it's like, yeah, well, tugs at collar.
Yeah, right. Yeah, a lot of great scenes like that. Really appreciate here. Yeah. So back at Sumdac Tower, Marty Eisberg is a master of like the transitions, I think. Back at Sumdac Tower, they're kind of arguing over what to do next, who's going to save Sari, should Sumdac come with. But Sari has clearly already saved herself, and she has a great hero moment here where she just kind of like drops down on the roof with a very heroic pose. Whoosh. And I was like, yeah, she is capable, you guys.
This blast of wind is as deliberate as it is awesome. And I missed this here a moment ago because like, so again, like speaking to the relationship between Sari and Ratchet, like they're still kind of homies, and Ratchet says something to the effect of like, well,
given the choice, I'd rather face down Megatron himself
rather than tell you that I lost the key. And cut to the monitor where Sari's like,
Ratchet, I think you may get that chance sooner than later.
And you know what? It's great dialogue, but it underscores a couple things. Like, Sari doesn't know what Megatron looks like. And even if she did, does she know what his alt mode looks like? Does Ratchet know what his alt mode looks like? Does he know that that's Megatron? I don't know. Again,
Well, actually, Sari does know what Megatron looks like because the Allspark gave her a vision of him. So actually, this plays right into that moment.
Well done.
And we don't even know how much that vision was like in her. Maybe it wasn't just what she saw. Maybe it was like zapped something into her too, like an intimate knowledge of.
And if I remember correctly, I'd have to go back and watch the episode, but I am pretty sure it's a vision of the future and it's Earth mode Megatron. It's not space junk 2007 looking Cybertronian Megatron. I think it's Megatron as we see him in these episodes. I think.
Yeah. I think that's true.
That's wild. No, that is terrific. And back to the scene that you were just teeing up here. Sari has this great line as she's having this superhero burst of wind in her power pose there.
If you think I'm letting you gearheads out of my sight, you're nuts. And I don't mean the kind that come with bolts.
And I'm like, I don't know about that. And it's one of those things. It's like, so my mind is in the gutter, but then I go back and think about it. I'm like, that's not double entendre at all.
Right. That's single entendre.
Exactly. Yes. It's like, no, that entendre is very singular. And I wrote in my notes, get in, losers, we're going shopping.
Yeah, I love it. I love Sari's got big Verity energy here. I think that's pretty.
Oh, hell yeah.
Cool for her.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that going on for sure. I'm a big Verity fan. I don't know if do people like Verity? Do you like Verity?
I like Verity.
Where do people sit on Verity?
That's a great
I'm
question.
a Verity fan.
Yeah, she's I know we've talked about this in a previous episode, but her, more than a lot of the other IDW characters, she got a lot to do, and it was interesting how different writers would pick her up and put her down. You know, that kind of thing. Like, she would disappear for a while, and then it's like, well, nope. Nick Roche is like, you know what? You're with the Wreckers now, and I'm like, hell yes. Yeah, and she gets a pretty satisfying, if not heart-wrenching character arc. So it's
absolutely,
it's good stuff. No, I think
sorry about a little aside here, but one of my favorite moments in all of Transformers is in Last Stand of the Wreckers, when Overlord's kind of talking and Verity's like, dude, Megatron's dead. And she's like, oh, this is righteous. You didn't even know that he didn't give a shit about you this whole time. Mm-hmm. Like, I love that moment. And Verity being the human being the one to deliver it is so righteous.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think maybe that goes into what I like about Sari in this episode is she, you know, not just like in striking a pose, but she does sort of like, she gets those moments a lot in this.
Well, and spoilers alert for the end of the episode. It's like, so when she is bequeathed the key by Optimus, it's earned. You know, and I know we've said that a half dozen different times during this episode or during this show already, but it's like, you know, she's a child. She's 8 years old, and she's a stinker, but like, she's also competent, and you know, she's loyal to her friends, and she can get these Autobots out of a jam in ways that they don't even understand. So it's again, she's a pretty great character. I do understand why she's polarizing, but spending this type of time with her as I have, I get why you're a fan. I appreciate the dichotomy, because it can be two things.
Yeah,
you want your characters to have nuance and foibles. You know?
Yes, absolutely. I don't want a character I love all the time, and I don't want one I hate all the time.
Yeah, you want them to let you down a little bit so that, you know, they can bring you back up. So
absolutely. Well, yeah, and then so I don't want to move past this scene because we got another great Sari moment where she says to her, you know, similarly to Ratchet, she says to her dad, it's like,
what? It's not like you built Megatron in your lab or anything. You built Megatron in your lab?
Well, actually,
slam.
Tug's collar.
This is my favorite running joke. I love it.
It's great. But Ratchet has a really cool aside to cap that off. He's like,
on the bright side, now I don't feel so bad about losing your key.
Yeah,
because it's like, at least I'm not that asshole.
Ooh, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it's kind of funny. It's a little bit of a visual gag here. Like Isaac Sumdac is doing like the same awkward finger thing that Bumblebee was doing in Nature Calls. It's just like, I don't know what this is, but it's like he's just doing like this weird awkward finger thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, but so speeding right along, they have no time for this. They gotta escape. They all make a getaway in the Autobot ship, but the Flyer's down it almost instantly. You know, you got Megatron and Lugnut and Blitzwing in plane mode, and just obliterate the ship, knock it out of the sky. At this point, the Autobots don't really have a plan, but the plan is, hey, Megatron can't get the Allspark. We know that much. So yeah, so I like this moment a lot because Prime comes around. He says some nice things about his crew. You know, something to the effect of nobody he'd rather be with. Right.
Yeah.
And this is what we've been building to for an episode and a half now of you're lucky you have who you have.
Yeah, it's interesting because like Prime says it explicitly, like, you know, if we go down, we're going down fighting together. He makes that point of emphasis, and he says,
and I can't think of a better band of Autobots I'd be prouder to fight alongside.
And then I mean, we'll have to give the secret spoilers, accidental spoilers siren for Bumblebee here, because he's like,
not even the Cybertron Elite Guard? Because I sure wouldn't mind having them here now.
Question mark. And
that's such a Marty Eisenberg thing, right? Like, you can't he's so good at like hinting at what's to come. He can't not. You know, even in this moment where Optimus is having this nice moment about his crew, he like Bumblebee breaks in. He's like, foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but it, for me at least, it's, and again, this may be foreshadowing or secret spoilers, but like it underscores why haven't the Autobots called for backup? Why haven't they tried to reestablish contact? Like, and it reminds me of like, it's a cascade of falling dominoes of like, wait a second. It's 50 years later, and you would think now your ship is broken. Does that mean that your subspace transmitter is broken? Because there's been no reference to it as far as I know. Do you want to drop a dime and try to call Sentinel? No, probably not, because it's Sentinel. And I couldn't help but think of all of the points that we got in listener feedback on Along Came a Spider. Like Stuart had some great points, Lita had some great points, but all of it led to, wait a second, nobody went back. And now we see now that this is just kind of how the Autobots do things, because this ship has been missing, presumed dead for 50 years. And I never thought about that until now. And presumably with knowing that they have the Allspark, because like, let's go back. Optimus calls and gets Sentinel, and Sentinel gives him shit. And he's like, well, take a picture of what's in our cargo hold. Oh shit, that's the Allspark. Let me go get Ultra Magnus. Ultra Magnus comes on and says, oh shit, you have the Allspark. You know what? Stay put. And then nothing. Yeah. I mean, unless it stands to reason, maybe this Cybertron elite guard ? Has been scouring the cosmos looking for these folks for 50 years. I don't know, but
yeah, I was gonna say it kind of strikes me as like the plot point in Rise, most recently in Rise of the Beasts, where it's like they just lost track of them, and space is big. There aren't these mapped hyperlanes. They could be anywhere, and you know, in the grand scheme of things, 50 years is not that long a time to explore the entirety of what the Big Bang created, you know? So
that's true.
It kind of makes sense to me that they haven't been picked up yet. You know, that could go back to it too. 50 years is sort of the blink of an eye to Cybertronians, right? So maybe, on both sides back on Cybertron, they're like, well, they haven't been missing that long. And, you know, they all woke up and they're like, oh, 50 years. I guess that wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Just kind of brushed the dust off your shoulder.
Like I've been asleep for longer than this.
Yeah, exactly. Also, before we get too much further away, you see the Autobot ship crash. And you see the Autobot ship crash on Dinobot Island. And I could not help but notice the imagery there of a ship sticking out of the side of a volcano. And I'm like, let's go, let's do this. But
absolutely.
But no time to reflect, because it is time for attack. It is Lost and Found round 2. It's Blitzwing v Ratchet and Bumblebee, and more importantly, it is Lugnut v Bulkhead round 2. These both of these fights are awesome.
Yeah. The moment where Prime battle masks up and the battle rack breaks out, like I loved that. I wrote the same thing, Bulkhead v Lugnut, and it ends with Bulkhead triggering the poke with his wrecking ball. Yep. Oh, that you talk too much moment is just sweet.
So I want to go back to the beginning of this Blitzwing fight, because I know we want to talk about Bulkhead and the poke. I've got something on that. But like, so Ratchet and Bumblebee immediately are like, well, let's cross the streams, let's combine our powers. But I like this thing after Blitzwing gets hit with the EMP, he kind of doesn't know what's going on. He's like, this is kind of weird. Oh shit. And instead of being like terrified, he's delighted because it's random Blitzwings in control. He's like, I'm falling.
Right.
Which I thought was great. But yeah, man, so like you said, in this Bulkhead v Lugnut, you get the triggering of the poke. There's a big red button on it, and I want to go back and watch Lost and Found again to see if that had a big red button on it, because I didn't remember it. Everyone pointed that out, but I didn't remember seeing it at the time. But this one, very explicit, very deliberate, and yeah, done. He poked himself. Lugnut poked himself.
Right. Yeah, or did Bulkhead do the poking? I mean, he got in there and pushed the button. But yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Either way, what a cool finishing move for this battle. And then just that sweet, you talk too much. Yes, please.
You talk too much.
Yeah. And it's so funny because like I went on like a mini deep dive last night because, you know, some of these things are very tropey and very much of their time. You know, we've kind of talked about like some of the postmodern dialogue, and You Talk Too Much is kind of one of those. And I found like a handful of different references. Like it happens in like Star Trek DS9 like 3 different times. Apparently it happens in an episode of Power Rangers RPM. I don't know anything about that, but happens in Game of Thrones. You have it happens at the climax of the Venom movie. It's in Westworld, the original movie, not the TV show. It's in Jerry Maguire. You got Cuba Gooding Jr. being like, you talk too much. And then, you know, because it wouldn't be a Two Mikes Too Furious if we didn't tie in Transformers Animated to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Of course, you have it in Avengers Infinity War as well. Thor tells that to Thanos. But also, and I had forgotten about this, in the Marvel comics, where Shockwave and Scorponok are vying for leadership, you have one of those situations where it's I believe that Shockwave is kind of extolling the virtues of logic and things like that, and Scorponok's just like, you talk too much, that kind of thing. So that I'll put a link in the show notes, but like I found like pages and pages of instances and variations of the You Talk Too Much.
It is a trope I love and have never gotten sick of. Please bring it on.
But you know where it is not? In anything Joss Whedon has written.
Interesting.
This feels like a very Whedon-y line, and it's not.
It does.
Because that's where I was expecting that deep dive to take me, and it didn't. It's not in Buffy, not in Angel, not in Firefly. Nowhere. I couldn't find any instance of it. Yeah,
that is wild. That seems like I can think of 3 times where I feel like Mal said that to someone in Firefly, right? Like it has to be there. But yeah, maybe it was just too much of a trope for him. Maybe that's a writer thing, I guess. Maybe he was watching out for that, purposely trying not to. But anyway, I love it here is the point. Bring it on.
It's so good. And the line delivery is just so dry and deadpan. It's good shit.
It makes sense coming from Bulkhead because he is a bot of few words. You know, it isn't as tropey for him. It does feel fitting that someone that, doesn't have to say as much would use that as a comeback.
Whereas Lugnut is surprisingly verbose.
Yes.
And I mean, like, you know, his vocabulary is limited, but it's always about like the glory of Megatron and the glory of the Decepticon Empire and all that other stuff.
He really does talk too much.
He actually does talk too much. So anyway, the Autobots are attacked by Blitzwing and Megatron here, and Optimus uses his grapplers to whip around Megatron in vehicle mode, and you get some sweet switchblade axe where it's like he pulls it out of his back and he's like snick, which I like also. I mean, I like a thruster better, but I'll take a switchblade also.
Of course.
Meanwhile, Isaac Sumdac is trying to figure out some way to combat Megatron, and I wrote in my notes, like Finn in The Rise of Skywalker, he tries to tell Sari something that's been a secret.
Yeah.
It's a real like, oh,
I'm afraid we may not make it out alive. There is something important I need to tell you.
And she's like, whatever, loser. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. You know, we can't get into this too much for obvious reasons, but I was surprised rewatching this. I didn't realize that they had hinted at this so early on. What this secret ends up being, I won't expound on, but I in my memory, they did not hint at this yet. So to have these machinations of it so early was really cool to see.
Well, and I am telling you right now, I will tell you, I will tell the audience, it is getting harder and harder to really kind of stay spoiler free because, like, you know, as we've talked about before, now I have more of an understanding of these characters in these situations. So now I see like a piece of fan art and I don't know what it is, that kind of thing. And it's like, it can't help but like get my gears turning. So again, I'm not looking actively for spoilers, but like as we get closer and more hints are coming, I'm just like, I'm surprised I haven't like I've done that again. I always call Sideshow Bob Silent Bob for some reason because I am like a Kevin Smith fan and a Simpsons fan as well. But I one of these days I'm just going to step on that rake and it's just going to smack me right in the nose.
Right.
And really the difference is why because like, I mean, I told you that I watched like Chris McFeely's Transformers The Basics episodes on Transformers Animated like 4 years ago. So it's like, and I have no comprehension of what that was. It was just a fun video. But like, I'm sure he revealed the plot of the entire show, but like I have no recollection of it because it was so long ago and I didn't have the context. Now that I have so much context, again, it's getting harder.
Yeah.
So
it'll be fun when we're all done with this project to go back and watch that video. And it's just a really heavy-handed like spoilers. And you're like, oh yeah, well that was there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, obviously we're hinting to something big and a powerful secret. But yeah, no time for that now because Sari goes to basically, I guess, commune with the Allspark to try to get some kind of power to help her friends. But meanwhile, back out in the battle, it's Bumblebee and Ratchet and Prowl, and they're trying to figure out what to do about this Blitzwing guy. And I love this legislation here where it's like, well,
what do we do now? Wait for him to turn back into a tank and crash like last time?
And Ratchet has this icy cool line. He's like, nobody gets that lucky twice.
Yeah.
But Prowl's got it figured out. He says something to the effect of like, you know, he's deduced that there's some kind of connection between Blitzwing's multiple personalities and his alternate mode. And he knows that Bumblebee is the one for this task.
Yeah, I love this scene for a couple of reasons. One, because it's a great dig, right? He says we have to use Bumblebee's greatest strength, and
what? My stingers, my turbo speed,
your obnoxious personality.
I think that's really smart. I also love that our resident detective Prowl, he figured this all out, and just overall, I like that this is the first time in this whole 2-episode arc that someone finally like took a beat and thought of something to do. There's been so much like, you know, we got to go do something. Everything's bad. We got to go do something. Finally, Prowl was like, hold on a minute. We haven't been thinking. Let's strategize for just a second and get it done. I love that. I love that it was Prowl that came to that conclusion.
Yeah. Very, very strategic, very logical. Again, stillness then strike. Find your enemy's weakness.
Yes. And I think it shows a lot about the danger everybody's been in for this last like episode and a half, that Prowl wasn't able to do that until just now.
Right. Because I mean, everything's just happening so fast. And obviously Megatron has no weaknesses. So, you know, it's like, you know, just throwing shurikens at a dude isn't really going to help you too much. But I love here how Bumblebee is just actively taunting Blitzwing.
Yes.
And again, you just get some of that sweet Bumper Robinson, and it is so good.
Yeah, I wanted to see a moment where Prowl was like, all right, Bumblebee, here's what I think you should say. And Bumblebee's like, nah, I got this. I've living my whole life for this. This is my riff, baby.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, tell him what you think about this. And it reminds me, and again, I'm occasionally dull and don't always pick up on things, but I don't know if I necessarily even now piece together the difference between Blitzwing's ice guns and his heat guns. You know, like how it relates to, you know, different vehicle types, different personality types. But yeah, you get this thing where it's like, oh man, you want some heat, have some heat. And sure as shit, it works.
Yeah.
I love it. He's just like, oh no, not again. God damn it. If only there was some way he could get himself out of that situation, but I guess not.
No, I imagine the personalities are fighting each other too hard. Maybe his jumped to the forefront because he got so angry. They sent the angry one in, and I just love that. He just couldn't counter from that.
I would like to see like a POV shot. I think we've talked about this in other episodes where there's almost like a meeting of the minds where it's like they correspond with each other of like how they're going to handle situation. It's like, no, this one's all you.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
They did the Agent Smith. The rest of me is just going to sit this one out.
I would like to see something like that where it's literally like in Blitzwing's mind and like, you know, like the other two are just like, come on, man. God damn it.
That's good.
But yeah, so we get back to Sari and she is begging the Allspark, you know, just like beating on it on its casing. And like, you know, she doesn't understand why she was chosen. She doesn't understand what to do. And again, I'm wondering, like, you know, all of that legislation we had a moment ago, this thing, obviously, when the Allspark opens and reveals this DNA code and like there's like, you know, this blue orb in the center of it. And I mean, it's obviously clues, but do you remember all of this imagery and all of these clues being this heavy-handed? Because it's clearly telling us something.
Right. Yeah. It's such a great moment because, Sari asks, like, why did it choose me? And it flashes a glimpse of DNA. And yeah, in my mind, I was like, whoa, that's something. But I don't remember it being that. I don't remember, to be honest, I don't remember the visions at all coming from the Allspark. So that has kind of been like a treat for me coming back around.
Gotcha.
Like, there's so much, they use it so much to foreshadow. And it was like, I didn't even know that was there.
Yeah, it's hard, dude. It's getting hard. Yeah, I mean, like right, it's getting real difficult here.
Just keep your blinders on, Mikey. Just stay the course. Stay the course.
I guess. I mean, I really hope this stuff gets revealed or resolved sooner rather than later, because I don't know how much longer I can hang on. It's like I'm like Bumblebee hanging off a Sumdac tower by his little fingers. He's like, I don't know how much longer I can hang on.
I want a montage of you of just like you're like walking through a Transformers convention trying to survive, people telling you stuff, and you're like, no time, no. And then it cuts to you like at the grocery store and someone just wants to ask you about some cereal. No, can't take the chance. No.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, because like I'm going to TFCon Orlando later this month. And so I figured like I'm gonna go around, especially like Josh Press's table. I'm just gonna be like Smithers in the strip club, like, no, can't look. Shield my eyes.
Just avoid that aisle altogether.
Yeah, exactly. So we get Megatron here, and this pretty lopsided, one-sided fight with Optimus, and Optimus is he's just no match for Megatron, like, at all. Megatron even calls Optimus a distraction at one point. He's just like, enough. These freaking ants, these ticks on my ass. It's just like, enough. So you get a reprise of the transformation sequence, and at first I thought that it was the same sequence in reverse as what we saw earlier, but I think it's the other way around. I think this is the main one, and then they reversed it for the going into helicopter mode. The only reason I say that is because this has so much more to it. Like, you see, like, his hands pop out, his head pops up. But again, I know that I have really softened up in my old age because I did not like Transformers Armada, what I saw of it. And I remember being especially off-put. And in fact, actually, this is even like 2001 Robots in Disguise as well. But like, I didn't care for like the the Saturday morning cartoon kind of American anime trope of like the power up scene where it's just like it's all speed lines and then the power pose and usually punctuated with like a symbol behind them or something. I'm like I'm an adult. I don't need that. I don't care for that. But here, you know, again, reappraising things. What a cool sequence. And I love that Megatron's power pose is just like arms folded, just looking just nonplussed. So I think it's a really cool menacing pose there. But yeah, like we said, it's a pretty one-sided fight. The duo make their way into the ship, into the hold where the Allspark is, and then Megatron opens his chest up. And there's a couple things I want to talk about here because so first of all, you could see the dude's spark. It's like, holy smokes. You see like an actual orb, bubbling around in there. And it's like he has a chamber for the Matrix. Like it almost kind of looks very Optimus Prime, very Ultra Magnus looking, where like in terms of like the doors and the folds on it. And it got me to think because I don't know if the Matrix is a totem that exists in Transformers Animated because it's 2008. We're all about the Allspark at this point. So, but it's interesting for Megatron to have like this pseudo Matrix chamber that certainly evokes what we've seen in other media.
Yeah, it was so cool. So cool to see that animation. It reminded me, there's also this scene in, I believe it's in More Than Meets the Eye comic, where they open up an unconscious Grimlock and realize he has a slot that would hold the Matrix. And it's like, it's just the ramifications of like, what does that mean? So that was really played out there. But that's the same thing we're seeing here, right? It's like, why do you have room for the Matrix? That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And instead he takes the Allspark, grasps it. It's like it's a tangible object that he can take from this trunk that again looks like the Matrix with we've already litigated that with the orange and the silver handles and all that other stuff. But I didn't realize that the Allspark was like this glass ball, this orb, and shoves it in his chest. Right. And I don't know, man. That movie that came out the year before told me that's the death blow.
Yeah, well, I thought that was such a great twist on this, right? Of that he didn't want that at the end of the movie, and now he's like ramming it in there himself.
Yeah, shove.
Yeah,
stick it in my veins.
Right. Or so he tries. It doesn't work out because Isaac Sumdac brings that invention he's been working on into the fray. It's cool. It's a nice little moment. It does what it's supposed to do. He zaps Megatron in the leg, and he makes this kind of big, bold statement, and a great moment for Isaac Sumdac that he's been reverse engineering him for 50 years. He knows how to hurt him. He knows everything about his physiology. Great story point. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And terrific wordplay here from Marty Eisenberg here too, because Isaac Sumdac is like,
I know how to disrupt your equilibrium sensors, your Achilles heel, if you will.
and Megatron for the second time really kind of tells Isaac Sumdac in no uncertain terms, it's like, you think you know a thing about a thing or two, but you know nothing about Cybertronians and the mechanics of the spark, or you might know about the machiny bits, but there's way more to Cybertronians than that.
Let's see how you like being crushed under this Achilles heel.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff, man.
It's really good. In the whole situation, Isaac Sumdac's little thing ends up being not a cure to the disease that is Megatron, but it buys Optimus enough time to take another jab at him, and buys enough time for Sari to toss her old hero back the key. And that is such a great, symbolic moment of this moment of, they've both forgiven each other. I do still like you, Optimus. I do still look up to you. I do still trust you. And he tosses the key back to him.
And then this glass shockingly fragile glass casing around the Allspark shatters. I mean, like there's an explicit like glass breaking sound.
Yeah.
I wrote down in my notes that Megatron is engulfed in blue flame like he had too much Taco Bell Baja Blast.
I love it.
It is that color of teal. It's very Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was going to say the sort of the crystal that's inside of the Allspark chest definitely looks like Vector Sigma. I feel like that's where that kind of visualization comes from. So there is some precedent for that. I thought that was a nice little Easter egg. But yeah, 100%. You're right. There is a glass shattering, and then that beautiful. I love Baja Blast, so I was soothed by that visualization.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's why I like that shattered glass sideswipe so much, because he's basically Baja Blast sideswipe. I love it. That it's like the right shade of teal. It's terrific. I love that figure.
Yeah, it's so cool.
But anyway, yeah. So because of the discharge of energy, it looks like this volcano basically erupts. Like it's basically this column of energy bursts out from the top of the volcano here, and there's kind of a bit of a coda here where Optimus and Sari are, sitting chilling, and Sari asks him, it's like,
did you destroy the Allspark?
And Prime says, no, it's
more like I dispersed it.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice note. And that's the scene. I also kind of like it because it reminds me of like the end of the Men in Black movie with Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith just kind of covered in alien goo, being like, not bad for your first day of work, right? Like it's just sort of like two grunts off the clock here.
Yeah. And then so Optimus also reveals that the Allspark key is now the single most powerful Cybertronian artifact. And this is huge, that it is too important to be left in the care of a mere Autobot. And that's just huge, because he knows, he understands now. And finally, as we said before, he bequeaths the key to Sari, and then who immediately uses it to get to work fixing the Autobots.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And but not before she asks, has anyone seen my dad? Dad.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that's a little echo on it.
Yeah, no, it's so good. It's so good. And again, we get another double ending. I love it. I love
this one.
This moment. As exciting as the post-credit scene for Nature Calls was, this is kind of like a sequel to that. Like, I love it. So we see that Megatron still functions, and he's got plans, but I love this so much because I could, it's a real images you can hear situation, because like when you start top down with Megatron and you see him and he's got a very specific looking set of battle damage, even to the point where there's like little sparkly bits just crackling off of him. It's like I could practically hear the Vince DiCola score coming in. It's like do 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 do, and it's like, and that was, I mean, obviously very intentional, very deliberate, but like it was one of those things where I didn't have a loud exclamation to it, but it was one of those things where, again, we're doing GIFs here, where I was just like, oh, and I was like, oh shit. Yeah. Cause like, I mean, it's so deliberate with the cracking, the sparking, even to the cracked lenses in his eyes, to where it is just so deliberate. And it's something to the effect of like, you see that Megatron is alive. He still functions. And he has Isaac Sumdac as his prisoner. And he says something to the effect of like,
it appears, Professor, that our fates are destined to be intertwined once more.
Yeah, he also says, even more importantly, I hope you're comfortable in your chair. Oh, love it.
Payoffs on top of payoffs, and Isaac Sumdac is shown to be trembling with either contempt or fear, or maybe he's just got to pee, or something.
Yeah, he's curled up kind of in a fetal position, right? It's almost like Megatron's holding a lighter up to him, and he's like, Gojira.
Yeah. Oh, nice ref, by the way.
If you want an obscure reference, how about the 1998 blockbuster Godzilla?
So that is the end of the episode, and that is the end of season 1.
Wow. Did you ever think we'd get here, Mikey? Wow.
I mean, yes, but I talked about this in our Nature Calls episode when it was all about like the end of the road begins here, that kind of thing. I am stunned that we got here, but I am also floored by how fast we got here. I'm like, oh no, that means we're a third of the way done.
Yeah.
And on one hand, oh yeah, we're a third of the way. Oh man. Well, that means we're a third of the way done. That means after this third and the next third, there's only 1/3 left.
Right. If you're done at the pizza, we've already eaten 3.5 or about 3 slices of it.
Which is delightful and delicious, but also that inevitability, and it's kind of interesting to reflect on that. And so I'm thinking, before we reflect on the season that was and speculate on the season that's coming, do you want to do my G1 score now?
Oh,
for this episode. Okay.
Yes.
So, and this one is very easy, not a whole lot of legislation. I feel like I kind of laid the track here because you've got some very unambiguous imagery. You've got the Autobot spaceship sticking out of the side of a volcano, all of the Transformers the movie imagery that we already discussed. So because of that, my G1 score for Megatron Rising is going to be 8.6.
Yeah, it's a biggie. Wow.
Yeah, real high.
Good job. Love it. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you were even telling some to me that I didn't notice, and I still felt this episode even before that was like, oh yeah, this is pretty heavy-handed almost. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and again, like we said, even back in discussing part 1, it's like these people saw the Transformers the movie a couple times, and again, one of the things that you said to me very early on in this project, it's like, you're going to love this because the people that make this are fans and trying to shove in all of those Easter eggs and references. And the cool part, though, and this is my very favorite type of fan service, it's fan service that will fly over the heads of casuals, and it doesn't distract them. It doesn't give it like, oh man, well, you needed to have read a bunch of comic books or seen other movies to know what's going on. It's like those are the best references to where it's like fans can get them, and casuals that could just roll right over their heads, and the story can continue.
For sure.
I would love to see that continue in contemporary media, but I don't think we're going to get it.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is nice of change of pace to sort of have this stuff be in there, and it's like it's winking at us. It's not just like, well, you're going to have to, there's not an asterisk that tells you have to watch or read something else, but we still get it. It still gives us a little warm feeling inside.
Absolutely. So I'm a first-time viewer, and you're a serial rewatcher, but watching it as a reappraisal. So I guess I would like to ask you first before you ask me, what was kind of your sense of revisiting season 1 as a singular thing for this project with that more critical eye?
It was really cool experience because it had been a while since I watched season 1, because it was one of those things where for a while season 1 was all I had, and I was hot and heavy on it, and I kept watching it and kept watching it and kept watching it. So a lot of times when I would go to serial rewatch, I'd skip around, or I'd skip that season. I'm like, hey, I watched this 27 times and I've only seen season 2, 4 times. Right. So revisiting it with a purpose and kind of like forcing me to get back in that seat and be like, all right, back in the day, it would have been like painful to sit through this episode again. No, it was fun. And it was like finding new things. And like I've said before, doing it with you, it's just, now I get to watch it through new eyes. It's like even the parts that may be like a little dry for me are like, oh, I wonder what Mike's going to think of this though. Like at least I have that at every turn. So it was really lovely actually.
Yeah, and I have to echo that as well. So it's like this was the series, not to relitigate the origin of Two Mikes Too Furious here, but like this was the one that everybody I know was one surprised that I hadn't seen, but then told me that I needed to get eyes on. So that's why it starts here, as opposed to say like a Transformers Prime or a Beast Wars or a Beast Machines or whatever. It's like, no, right. TFA is made for you, Mike Seibert. And I'm like, okay. And I was not disappointed, and I understand now why there's so much love and reverence for this show and nostalgia for it. So much so to where now we 15 years later are getting brand new Transformers Animated Universe action figures in mainline in Legacy United.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to the longevity of this show and how beloved it is by fans, because if the fans didn't care, Hasbro wouldn't be making these toys.
Yeah, I think that was, I didn't get to that earlier, but that was one of the things that really like shocked and surprised me and delighted me, that people were responding it to so well. Like there was a moment there where I was like, oh, what if nobody cares? You know, I don't remember like a big buzz around when the Prowl figure came out, or not, definitely not as big as this one, but back-to-back Bumblebee and Optimus, it's like, whoa, people are getting psyched. And I freaking tuned into Twitter and it was just like all over the place. People were talking about this. It's like, you know, they revealed like 30 figures. A lot of people are talking about these too.
Still. And I think some of it had to do with the leaks ahead of time. And it reminds me of a joke that I didn't make earlier when we were talking about the new Bumblebee figure, because like we saw a leaked listing of like Transformers UNI. Legacy Uni. And it's like, well, what would that be? So I being a little bit of a Bumblebee myself, being a little bit of a sorry Sumdac myself, being a little bit of a, just kind of wanting to cause a little trouble. I put out on Twitter, I was like, what if this figure is called Transformers Legacy Universe Animated Universe Bumblebee? Because I had speculated that the Uni was Universe and United is so much cooler. Transformers Legacy United, that's pretty cool. I like that.
I like it though. I mean, yeah, it's I like your take on it though too. I take that.
Well, because like I find pleasure in reading off the kind of ridiculous naming conventions sometimes, because especially in Legacy, everybody is they're identified from where they're from. So like when they put Scourge out, the evil, not Nemesis Prime Scourge, but it was like, yeah, man, it's Robots in Disguise 2001 Universe Scourge, that kind of thing.
Right.
So they're all very
long-winded. Yeah.
So anyway, I think that speaks to the longevity. And I put this out on Twitter also. It's like, man, it is a good time to be co-hosting a Transformers animated podcast, because like I would like to think that with this new groundswell of renewed interest in TFA, maybe folks will check us out, and that would be,
here's hoping.
Really cool. Yeah, absolutely. So that being said, we're going to announce what the next phase of the podcast is going to be. But before we close out here, let's open up the mailbag and get some listener feedback. What do you say?
Yes, please.
Mail time.
Mail time. The mail's here. Come on.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
All right. So most of these are from YouTube. And again, it seems like YouTube has kind of become like the hub for commenting on individual episodes. And it's interesting that, like, you know, again, more and more folks are finding us there and are commenting. So I want to give shouts out to new subscriber Ichabod Drifts Takeover. In their bio, it says, just some random gamer stuff. Most of my work is over at the PocketBot Collective channel, so feel free and check it us there. The PocketBot Collective is cataloging all box Legends class and related and such. So a lot of little dudes. But yeah, I looked at some of their videos, pretty cool stuff. So this is in regards to this is going all the way back to our Lost and Found episode. So this is going a few back. Another great episode, Mike's. Just a super minor note, Lugnut's Punch does have another official name that I absolutely love, though I don't recall if it actually comes up in the actual dialogue. It's the Poke, a.k.a. the Punch of Kill Everything. Such a ridiculous name for a ridiculous attack. One of my favorite little things of all in TFA. Now, as far as my 2 cents on your brief Transformers comic discussion, I too was unfamiliar with Daniel Warren Johnson up to a couple years ago, as I don't read many comics anymore that aren't Transformers related. But I found out there was a new miniseries starting with my favorite Marvel superhero, Beta Ray Bill. DWJ did the writing and the art for it, and it blew me away. To add to Mike S's take, I found a bit of the dialogue was clunky and cliche at times, but the overall story he told was well-paced and interesting, and also stated the artwork is incredibly dynamic. I couldn't help but love it. So I agree. I think the writing is on the wall for this to be a quote-unquote safe relaunch, but I definitely think we're in good hands with him on this upcoming Transformers comic. Now, we did a little bit of Transformers comic talk during MSRP 400. So I'm interested to see how that goes. I remain cautiously optimistic. Any further thoughts or discourse on the new Skybound Transformers comic?
No, I mean, honestly, I didn't know much about it before you mentioned it on your 400th.
Got it. So moving on now, our good buddy Matthew Barbario, good fan of the show.
Yeah, Matthew Barbarino.
Yeah, exactly. He also wrote on Lost and Found. I love this episode of TFA. The battle scenes are fantastic. I will say, though, I'm personally not huge on this version of Blitzwing. Some of his personalities annoy me a little, though. I can't help but laugh at some of the things he says. And there is a really great bit that was cut, or it was a special short that featured Blitzwing with a necklace with the faction emblems, making it flip while singing the transition song from G1, the na 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 na. And I do really love that. As for my source behind Hot Rod, or technically Rodimus, since at the time Hasbro didn't have the name rights to Hot Rod, so it would have been Rodimus, being a jerk character of animated, I heard it initially from Proto Man on the Transformers Slag podcast, and he was told, I believe, by Derek J. Wyatt himself, but it is also noted on the TF Wiki under the notes section on animated Rodimus's character bio page. Sorry, Mike Seibert, a little bit of a spoiler, but it's not too much of one, really. And also, thank you for the Rise of the Beast review talk at the end. It was great to hear your opinions on it. Personally, I really enjoyed it. It doesn't beat out some of the Bay films, but it is in the top 3 live action films for me. I wish it had been more to do with the Beasts, but I think this will be only the beginning of their story. So that from Matthew there.
If I couldn't like Matthew more, he defends the Bay films a little bit. Maybe I'm reaching on that, but that's awesome that he threw those out there.
Oh no, man! I don't think that's an exaggeration at all. You guys have very similar sensibilities on a great many things. So a couple other bits of mail I want to share here. This going back to our Survival of the Fittest episode. Again, we go to my dude Matt. Matthew Barbario writes, a well-done review of a great Transformers animated episode. It was great seeing the Dinobots again. I feel like they are underappreciated by fans of TFA. I do like all of the Lake Eerie legislation. I have long been fascinated by shipwrecks, and I've read all about the Edmund Fitzgerald, but completely forgot it was in Lake Eerie. I also had to roll my eyes with the song at the end. I don't know what it is. I just hate that song, LOL.
Yeah. You and me both, pal.
I am not a fan either. I mean, that song is 7.5 minutes of just folksy storytelling of basically, a boat that sank. I mean, RIP, but it was just like, it was.
How dare they take something small and expand it to a longer form? What kind of monster does that?
Oh man, we're crossing hour 4 of recording on a pair of episodes that have a combined running time of 47 minutes. So yeah, point taken.
Yourself.
But speaking of the Edmund Fitzgerald song from Gordon Lightfoot, R.I.P., we got a comment on Twitter from Imani Drayton. That music that was used in the last episode in that last scene, very sad.
Oh yeah.
It is a very sad song.
Very, very.
But keeping it in the realm of music, we a handful of episodes ago, we dubbed my dude Michael Andrews the Spark Soul Brother, and I like to throw in some of that Rockefeller skank in there to keep it going. It really
Rockefeller Spark. Let's coin it.
Oh, there it is. Well, that's a button. That's gotta be a button.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 and it's just us with like cartoonishly large afros and tracksuits. Right.
The car can stay the same.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, it's a Transformer. The car in the Rockefeller Skank video is a Transformer, because it's like because I remember being like in high school and like seeing the thing like all the panels flip up and it does like the spinning and all that. I'm like, it's a goddamn Transformer. Anyway, so Daith out on Twitter at Dartharian tweeted at us with regards to the Rockefeller Skank legislation. Is that the actual lyrics? ? I swear I've always heard it as, quote, the funk's so rubber.
Oh my.
Right about now.
Is there any truth to that? I guess
check it out now.
Right about now, funk so rubber.
And this a tweet from Whirl, who we just heard from in Mike Seibert Radio podcast episode 400 as part of that guest panel. But they sent us a tweet a while ago. I think this was in regards to survival of the fittest, maybe a little later. Key legislation, have we considered that while the key has impacted Sorry, maybe Sorry's also had an impact on the key and given it as a mischievous side?
Yes, absolutely.
It the key likes to mess around. I think it definitely likes to fuck around and find out, and it has definitely picked up a mischievous side for sure.
Totally.
And to round it out with some comments about our episode on When Nature Calls from just a couple episodes ago, we go back to new fan of the show, The Perfect Pitzel. Another great episode, ! I can't wait for the season 1 finale reaction. Well, you're here.
Yeah, you made it.
It's happened. And mentions, I personally listen on Spotify while I'm at work, but I like having the YouTube videos to comment on because I don't use much social media, which again, I'm shout out to the YouTube. That's a great way to post things. And on that episode, When Nature Calls, again, friend of the show, Matthew Barbario, another great one, Mike Squared, and happy birthday, Mike Seibert. Thank you, sir. I love the brief inclusion of the X-Files theme. It was definitely an X-Files-esque episode, and I can't help but think that a crossover between Transformers and X-Files would have been awesome. Could you imagine Mulder meeting the Autobots? On the subject of the monster being mutated, actually, so I'm going to stop there for a sec because, that's funny. because keeping in mind that the Autobots are indeed aliens.
Right.
So,
right.
So
Great.
like, regardless of the nature of them or whatever, that would make for a really cool crossover.
Well, and there have been some weird Transformers crossover comics. That one doesn't seem as weird to me, right?
Yeah. Oh,
and,
yeah.
And on that note, I'd also like, this might be obvious now at this point, but I'd also like a crossover with Transformers and Men in Black. And let's get someone to turn into the Men in Black Cadillac.
Oh, my God. That would be so cool.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
That would rock. On the subject of the monster being mutated by something on Earth and the connection to War of the Worlds with the aliens dying from oxygen, this in reference to the Space Barnacle monster, by the way.
Yes.
It made me think of the 2001 Justice League series. It opened with aliens that end up being defeated by sunlight as deep space aliens aren't used to it. That was just an interesting little connection I made. I also love the continued Comrade Kid legislation. It had me cracking up, especially the added music with it. Pure perfection, LOL.
Yeah. That's really great reference there too to the 2001 Justice League. One of my personal. I don't talk about it too much, but I was a big fan of that show and collected figures from it and all that.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, excellent writing.
And then finally, our last bit of mail. This again with our When Nature Calls episode. This from Abers0737 at Abers0737. Great episode and happy birthday! ! Thank you. Nature Calls is the first episode I remember watching as a kid, and rewatching it for this podcast was very nostalgic. Hope you are ready for the next episodes. They are going to be awesome. Yes, I can confirm they are awesome.
Yeah. Well, good. I hope for your sake, Abers, that we did a justice to your favorite nostalgic episode.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to share the listener feedback on this tandem episodes of Megatron Rising parts 1 and 2, but we don't have a new episode coming up.
Yeah,
I know. So let's kind of talk about briefly before we get out of here, give some announcements and kind of talk about the future trajectory of the podcast. As you know, and as we've talked about a lot, this is obviously it's a labor of love, but it's also not without labor. Like it's a pretty laborious task to watch the episodes, discuss the episodes, record the episodes, edit the episodes, publish them, and keep the momentum going. And it's hard. I mean, I don't want to, not have a good handle on my privilege and say podcasting is hard. It's not that, but it does take a toll. And I think lately we have been feeling that in different ways, as well as just kind of like the weight of life stuff. So we're announcing here that we are going to take a brief hiatus. We're not going to jump back into season 2 right away, but please do not despair. This is not the end of the podcast. We are continuing. We are definitely doing season 2,
yes.
and definitely going forward. But I think after this sprint to the end of season 1, I think we need a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I also think it's a great time for people to catch up. Maybe if they're a couple episodes behind. I know that happens in podcasting. I don't expect all of you to listen the minute it drops. But yeah, if you want to catch up, and you know what, if you could tell a couple friends about it, get us a couple extra downloads in the meantime. That would mean a lot. So plenty of time here while we take our little breathers for you to catch up and get people caught up.
Absolutely. Tell your friends. And again, it's been no better time to be a fan of Transformers Animated. So that's what we're really excited to be here for. In the long term, we will be back. We're probably looking at approximately the first of the year, but maybe a little after that. Not exactly sure yet. That's all TBD, because basically we're just going to take a break for the holidays. But that is not the last time you're going to see us. And again, still very TBD. We were actually workshopping during this recording session. So, there's still a lot of things we need to think about before we make a formal announcement. But I will just leave you with a not so subtle hint. Halloween is coming, and it's Michael Andrews' favorite time of the year. And then also, we just celebrated my birthday episode. Well, somebody else has a birthday coming up in the first part of November. So
sorry, Sumdac.
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, yes. Oh, so instead of a Michael Andrews birthday episode, it's a Sorry Sumdac birthday episode.
Yeah, that's how we'll
tie it is.
Keep it in universe, right?
So we're going to step away for a few, but we will be back before the holidays, maybe during the holidays, but not relating to season 2. Maybe we're going to do that retrospecticus, that respecticus that we were talking about, because there's some other stuff that we can reflect on, plus, get more of your listener feedback. So there is stuff to do that we would like to do before we jump in face first into season 2, but it's not going to be next week. And it's not going to be the week after. So, look for announcements for on our social medias, and maybe I'll figure out how to post something on YouTube also, because I see like actual YouTubers that know how to do that stuff. Like I see Chris McFeely announcing videos. Like he just puts up like a thing that's like, oh, hey, this video is about to drop. So maybe we'll put something there. Maybe we're going to do some live streaming. Maybe we're going to do some slumber partying. There's a number of things. But in the meantime, with your feedback, which we greatly appreciate, also, this is as much your show as it is ours. Let us know what you want to hear from us. Like, do you want to hear like a commentary track for Dark of the Moon? Because that seems to be something that Michael Andrews wants to do. But yeah, I mean, anyway, so just, I'll mention it in the pre-recorded exit here, but I do just kind of want to let you know that we are on social medias. It's 2 Mikes, 2 Furious with the numbers 2. So 2 Mikes, 2 Furious. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And email address is 2mikes2furious@gmail.com. So message us in any of those individual places. Michael Andrews, if folks wanted to correspond with you directly, separately from the 2 Mike stuff, how where can they find you?
Yeah, probably the blessed place. Best place is Twitter, and I will never call it X. So find me on Twitter and tweet at me all the time.
Perfect.
That's the best place at Michael Andrews, spelled Michael the weird way.
Awesome. And I am in all of those places as well. I haven't made it to any of the new places. Like I'm on Blue Sky, so I made it to where the sky is blue, but I don't post there. It's like I put like one photo of my Sideswipe collection and then another thing saying like, hey man, come hang out with us for episode 400. But I haven't. I mean, I'm gonna. I mean, like Dr. Strangelove, I'm just like Slim Pickens. I'm just gonna stick with Twitter until the very end. Basically, right. I'm gonna stick with it until it costs me money. But anyway, that's where I'm the most active. But you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram as well, in a couple different places and a couple different aliases. If you just type in Mike Seibert, Seibert, you'll find me somewhere. So, but anyway, like during this kind of brief off-season hiatus, please reach out. We're since we're not doing episodes, maybe we do some dank memes and things like that. So I know social media isn't everybody's thing, but we're not leaving, but we are going to step away for a few. And I don't know, I guess before we get out of here, I just want to say, hey, Michael Andrews, thank you so much for taking this journey with me. I greatly appreciate it. You are truly my spark soul brother, and I can't think of anybody that I would be rather taking this journey with.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I echo all the same. It's been awesome. A chance to really, in this day and age when we, you need to find purpose to do something. It's kind of nice to have this opportunity to be like, hey, you got to sit down and watch that show you used to love and have the time for it. So I've really, really enjoyed getting that and getting to meet a bunch of people too along this way.
Oh my gosh. All the new friends, like, Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like pull the plane up as I'm trying to come in for a landing, but it's but again, that means the world to me, to connect with new fans that neither one of us know. And it is just such a cool feeling to connect with a new audience that we hadn't had existing tethered to, as well as getting that great feedback from our existing friends as well. You know what? I think we're on to something here. How about we keep doing it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and that's going to do it for us for now. Until next time, make good choices
and eat some pizza.
Yeah, buddy. All right, buddy. I was really trying. No, I'm like, oh my God, it's not working. But yeah. So let me
do the thing where
let me do the thing right now. Want to be a guest on the show? Send us an email to mikes2furious@gmail.com. Interact with us on social media. You can follow 2 Mikes 2 Furious on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 2 Mikes 2 Furious.